It's been a long time coming, but the second generation Audi Q3 is finally here in India. Well, yes, 4 years after its global debut, this car is now on sale in our country. Now, the thing is, this rides on an all-new platform. It is the second generation model, of course, of the very popular SUV that was the Q3 when it was launched in 2011. And this has got an all-new interior, it has got more aggressive design, and it also gets an all-new engine option. The question is all of that enough to make it the segment leader that it once was? Let's find out. Like I said, there are a lot of new things on this second generation model of the Q3, but I think the major draw of this car is its design, because now it looks much better than its predecessor. While the old Q3 used to look a little bland, especially towards the end of its life cycle, the second generation model, well, that addresses that issue, because this is a scaled down Q8 of sorts, and this looks quite aggressive, quite sporty, and it also looks quite butch. So there are a lot of new design elements. Of course, it gets this new hexagonal grille and those wedge-shaped LED headlamps. They look quite cool, and this car has that sporty appeal for sure. Now, on top of that, it also gets these nice chrome silverish actually accents all around, and that looks quite cool as well. Now, coming towards the side profile, of course, it's a little longer than the old model, and it shows it looks bigger, and it gives it a little more SUV-ish sort of stance. It has got short overhang still, and the wheels are 18 inch of size. There are optional wheels which are bigger, 20 inches in size, but that's for global markets. It's not available in India. Now, these wheels, nothing wrong with it, but I think the wheel design, it's a little boring. Nothing wrong with the size. I think 18-inch wheels are absolutely fine for our country, but I do think the design is a little bland. It doesn't really go with the overall sporty look of the car. But overall, if you look at the side profile, of course, it looks quite cool and it looks quite good. Now, if you come around the back, again, there are a lot of changes, and it has got these nice wraparound LED tail lamps. In profile, it still looks like the Q3 from the back, especially if you watch it dead on. It looks like the Q3 still. It has got same dimensions. It's a narrow car, but overall, I think the proportions are absolutely perfect, and I think the Q3 now is a much better looking car than the first generation model, and this is going to be one of its main highlights. It's also available with some really nice color options, with bright color options, so it gives it a youthful approach as compared to the old car, which, like I said in the beginning, felt a little boring towards the end. The Q3's interior is another of its highlights. I think this is one of the best cabins in the business, because it has the typical Audi approach. It's minimalistic, but it has got all the toys that you will probably need. And more importantly, the design is completely new. It has been revamped. It feels more premium. It feels more luxurious compared to its predecessor. And I think overall, when you sit inside this car, it has that feel-good factor. Let's start with the gadgets first. It comes with a 10.1-inch touchscreen. It is crisp. It is of great quality. It's high definition, and everything is quite intuitive. It's very easy to use as well. Next up is the Audi virtual cockpit display. This is a digital driver display, and I think it is the best in the segment. We have used it in multiple Audi cars, and I think this is probably the best that there is. Now, coming to other bits, it retains these physical buttons, these knobs and controls for your air conditioning, and I think that's a great touch, because not everything is digital, not everything is touch operated. It is a very clever, very German thing to do. Next up, you've also got this volume control over here for entertainment, and it is quite easy to use. Again, a lot of new cars, they have this volume functionality now in touchscreen. It is quite fidgety to use, and it's not very practical. But on this car, it has got this physical button over here, nice, round, big, and you can just use it very conveniently. I think that's a great small touch that you appreciate every time you drive this car. Now, it has also got these quick access buttons over here, and that means especially this drive select button. You can change the settings, you can alter the settings, the engine response, the drive modes. You can change it quite quickly from here, and it is again a very practical touch. It has also got this new gear lever, and I think overall this cabin is a very nice place to be, and you really enjoy sitting in this car. It feels modern, it feels cutting edge. Among other bits that are new, it has also got a panoramic sunroof, and of course that also adds to the overall wow factor of this cabin. And you've also got these very nice and cool touch sensitive cabin lights, very easy to use, and also they feel very premium. Having said that, it's not a perfect cabin in every way because there are a couple of things that are missing in this car. For example, the seats are not ventilated, it doesn't get that function, and I think at this price point, this is something that you're solely going to miss. Of course, they are electrically adjustable and the seats are quite comfortable, but this is a feature that you are going to miss on this car, especially given its price. Similarly, the touchscreen infotainment, of course, it's great to use, but it still doesn't get wireless connectivity for your smartphone. It doesn't have wireless Android Auto or wireless Apple CarPlay. You can use a wire and then you can access it, but again, for a car of this price, you expect these features to be there. Next up, the virtual cockpit display. Yes, it's great, but when you're using your maps, as in you're using your maps from your smartphone, Google Maps that is, well, it doesn't reflect on the screen. It shows the car's inbuilt maps. It's not synced properly, and that's again one feature that you'll definitely miss in this car. Now, overall quality is of course brilliant. It is typical Audi, like I said, but there are some hard plastics over here, and even on the dash you can see these plastics. They feel a little hard. The buttons are also slightly tacky, and the stalks behind the steering wheel, well, they also aren't of best quality. So it is a great cabin, but it has its shortcomings, like I said. Having said that, overall I think this cabin is a great place to be, and these are small niggles, but overall I think this is a great step up as compared to the old car. The second generation Q3 is significantly longer than the outgoing version, and that means it's around 97 millimeters longer in terms of length, and the wheelbase is also increased by 78 millimeters. Now that translates into a more spacious cabin, especially at the back. It's not that it has got acres of room, but for its segment, I think this is probably the best that there is, especially compared to the Volvo XC40 and the BMW X1. This definitely feels more spacious. You sit here quite comfortably. The seat squab is also quite nice. You've got great under thigh support, and even in terms of headroom, I'm 5'8", it is quite decent. So taller passengers, of course, will feel it's not that great because the headroom, it's okay, but it's not that bad. But the seats are very comfy. Now, it's not a very wide car, so 3 passengers, well, they can't really sit here because it is going to be a tight squeeze. And given that there's a transmission hump over here, and the seat, look at the seat, it's virtually nothing over there. Even for kids, it is going to be really hard to sit on this seat. So it's not strictly a two-seater, but the third passenger will have to make compromise, especially over long journeys. And in terms of frills, well, of course, there's not much of it. You've just got these AC vents over here. It gets dual zone climate control, so at the front you can set temperature, but at the back you can't. So it's for front 2 passengers, you can set temperatures at front, but at the back you're just going to get your vents. There is no climate control for you guys over here. There is, however, a smart storage compartment over here. This is quite unique, and you can put your knickknacks over here. Now, if there's one thing that's worth mentioning, the seats come with sliding options, so you can slide them forwards. Of course, you don't want to do that because it compromises your legroom, so you can slide it back all the way back. Similarly, it also comes with reclining seats, so you can recline it further and sit here comfortably. So that's a smart touch, but overall the cabin, it's definitely more spacious than the old Q3, and it's also more spacious than some of its direct rivals. This second generation model is based on an all new platform. This is now on Volkswagen's MQB platform, the same platform that underpins the Volkswagen Tiguan and the Skoda Kodiaq. So again, this is very car-like to drive. It's an SUV technically, but the way it drives, the way it handles, well, of course, it's very car-like to drive. And it is quite agile, it is quite fun. Of course, it's not an outright corner carver, or it's not a hot hatch of sorts like the Q2 is, but this is more comfort-oriented. The suspension, everything is tuned for a comfortable ride. Now, that is the case for the most part, because if you drive this car daily, you can feel that this is a very comfortable car. The ride quality is phenomenal. Even at high speeds, at low speeds, it is very absorbent and nothing filters into the cabin. Yes, probably at really low speeds, at speeds over 10-20 kilometers per hour, well, that's when if you go over a really sharp bump, there are some thuds that you can hear. There is some thud from the suspension, as you can hear that if the fan speed is really low and you're not listening to music. So that's the only area where you can feel the suspension is a little noisy. That is at really low speeds and over sharp bumps. But everywhere else, it's just phenomenal. It's virtually flawless. You can't really fault it. It is a very comfortable and very cushiony ride overall. Even at highway speeds, it's very stable. It doesn't feel floaty at all. And when you're driving it fast, it has got that stability. But at the same time, the ride quality is not stiff or not firm. So if you are looking for a comfortable package, well, of course, look no further than the Q3, because I'd say probably it is the best riding SUV in its segment. Now, on the handling front, like I said in the beginning, this feels more car-like to drive. The visibility all around is great. You've got these really slim A-pillars, and the window is really big and large, and you can have a great view of the road ahead. So if you're driving it in traffic, you'll absolutely love this car. The visibility is really great, and in everyday driving conditions, in traffic or you're squeezing through tight gaps, this is a car that feels more like a hatchback, but then you have got the ground clearance of an SUV. So on that front, it's quite good. It is quite beautifully balanced, and I think if you love driving yourself, well, of course, this is a great option. The steering is typical Audi-ish. It does feel a little lifeless. In dynamic mode, a little too much, I'd say. But in comfort and in other settings, it's light and it's easy to twirl around. But yeah, the feedback from the steering is not that great, but it is very precise. Now let's talk about the engine option in this car. So this is offered with just a petrol engine. Like all modern Audis, there is no diesel on offer with the Q3 right now. But this unit, the petrol that it has, it's the 40 TFSI. That means it's powered by the same 2-liter engine, turbocharged engine that powers the Audi A4 as well. The power output is also similar. It produces 188 bhp and 320 Newton meters of torque, and it comes mated to a 7-speed dual clutch automatic transmission. First things first, of course, this is a very potent engine. It revs quite freely. It is quite eager to rev, and the performance is also brilliant. It has torque building up all the way from 1500 RPM. So there is no really turbo lag to speak of, and at low speeds, at city speeds, it feels absolutely phenomenal. This engine has a lot of grunt, to be very honest. Now, what I like about the engine is that it also feels very sporty. If you're driving it fast, it makes those sporty noises like you expect from a TFSI engine. And overall also, I don't think there's anything to complain about. Yes, you might think so it needs more grunt, it needs a diesel engine, but really you don't miss it. Of course, in terms of efficiency, probably that's when you'll miss it, because it's not going to return you more than 12 kilometers to a liter. That's also when you're driving it sedately. But it's very hard to drive this car sedately, because the way this engine is tuned, it asks you to go for it. Now, the dual clutch transmission is another familiar affair. It is quick, it has lightning quick shifts, and you've got paddle shifters also to change the gears yourself. But yeah, this gearbox is always ready to serve up the next gear. So this gearbox is also almost flawless. There is nothing really to complain about. Lightning quick shifts, and even downshifts also are very quick. And again, in every sort of driving condition, the gearbox is up for the job. Now, if there is a slight concern, it has to be that in city traffic, again at very low speeds, that's where the DSG gearbox is not quite smooth, and it keeps on shuffling between first and second gears. So that's where you feel it is a little jerky, it is a little snappy at those speeds when you're in bumper to bumper traffic. But again, 95% of the time, this gearbox is almost flawless. You can't really complain about it. It's got the performance, it's very quick shifting, and it's also very smooth. The India spec Q3 is equipped with the Quattro all-wheel drive system. Now, of course, you might imagine that it can go off-road, which it can because it's an SUV technically, and it has got all-wheel drive, of course, and it has also got an off-road driving mode. So yes, if you want to do a light off-roading, it can do that because it has got the clearance, and it's also technically an all-wheel drive SUV. The all-wheel drive system, the Quattro, is not permanent all-wheel drive. It is the held system, so it is primarily a front-wheel drive car, but when it detects slip at the front, so it sends power to the rear wheels. So most of the time it's front-wheel drive, unless and until you're pushing this car on, unless and until you're stuck somewhere, that's when the power is going to go to the rear wheels. Overall, even when you drive it really fast around a bend, it feels like a front-wheel drive car. But yes, if you overcook and you overdo things, so then that all-wheel drive system kicks in, and of course it saves the day for you. On the whole, there's not much to complain about the new second generation Audi Q3. It does virtually everything that you want from a car in this segment. It has got great performance, the ride quality is phenomenal, it also drives like a car, it has got all-wheel drive if you want to do off-roading, and on top of that, it is quite spacious, it is feature-packed, and more importantly, it is also priced really well. So if you are looking for an entry-level luxury SUV, well, I think the Audi Q3, you can call it a perfect package for its segment.